Let's talk a little bit about relationships. Me and my husband are going to be celebrating 10 years of marriage later on this year. Been together 11 years this March, and then in October we'll be celebrating our 10-year anniversary. Really got me thinking about our relationship. We have done a lot of growing up in the last 11 years that we have been together. You do have to make a lot of adjustments when you're with someone, and not necessarily when you're married with someone, but also when you are living with someone. It is a completely different story to when you're dating someone that you don't live with. When you're living with someone or when you're married to someone and you're all under one roof, when you're annoyed at each other, what the hell are you going to do? Literally, you have to do a lot of growing up. When you're dating and you're not living together, it's so much easier. You have an argument, you're on the phone to each other, you have an argument, that person's not coming home to you. You could just hang up the phone in their face. And that's it. Go about your day. And you decide when you want to speak to them. You're dating someone and you're out together and you have an argument and you decide you want to go home. You bugger off and you go home. And you don't have to deal with that person until you're ready to deal with them. Also, when you're in a long-term relationship, you do have to think about the other person whenever you're, making plans, just everything in general. I know that people are very independent and people don't think that they have to, but actually you do. You do have to be more considerate of the other person, especially because your life isn't just you by yourself anymore. I'm a fairly independent person. I have always been quite independent, never really think about someone else when I was making my own plans. And it's not like my husband ever stops me from doing anything I want to do. He doesn't. He's quite for me, just living my life, carrying on. But I'm actually a little bit more reserved now. I'm not out every weekend with friends. I'm not out all the time with my friends. He wouldn't stop me, but actually I want to be able to spend time with him because you have to do a lot of growing up when you're with someone and you're serious about them. I post a lot of content on here with me and my husband, and I've seen a lot of comments, which I'm so grateful for, where people talk about me and my husband being so cute, we're couple goals, we have the best relationship and stuff. And yes, we do. But that relationship has been 11 years in the making. It's not always been straightforward. And I'm not saying we've had bad times, but we've both have had to make so many adjustments. We both have had to change the way we feel and think and the way we do things because we've both been independent for so long. And then all of a sudden we're in a relationship with someone who we're wanting to spend the rest of our lives with. We had to adjust to what it was like to live with each other, first of all. I was alone. I was in my own space. So it took a lot to adapt to now having to share my personal space with someone else. You can't just come and go as you please. We all have different outlooks on life. And for me, now, every time I make some plans, every time I do something, let me have a chat with my husband first, just to make sure he's all right with what I'm doing. Not that he's going to tell me I can't do it, but we might have plans. And actually, he might have something planned for me. And it's important that you're considerate of your partner. Yes, we are couple goals and I love my husband and we have the best relationship considering we argue like everybody else. Sometimes I want to throttle him, but we do argue. But one thing we've always said to each other is whatever happens, we're not going anywhere. So there's no point us having this massive argument and then I walk out or he walks out or whatever and that's the end of it. No. You work on your relationship if it's somebody you really, really want to be with. I'm always going to speak to my husband about things. My husband knows everything. I don't keep any secrets from him. From when we started dating, I was very clear. My husband and I did 7 months of long distance before we actually met for the first time. My husband was living in New York. I was living in London. We relied a lot on communication for our relationship rather than physical contact. And I think that has really, really helped how our relationship has shaped over the last 11 years. I can also sometimes be really difficult to put up with. I know myself that I am not the easiest of persons sometimes to put up with. I am a person that if I don't like something, I will tell you just as it is there and then. I don't let things go. I can't leave things to go months and months without saying anything. Whereas my husband is completely opposite to me. He will literally not say anything for a while and then it'll get to a point where he'll actually just explode. And this is the difference between the two of us, and this is where the two of us actually come together and try and make things work between us, but also with the other people that are around us, to think about his feelings, because that's how relationships are going to work. And then it's not me stepping back and not saying anything. It's actually me stepping back and reevaluating what I was about to say, and rather than burst out and say something that could be quite harsh, cruel, mean, I think about a way of wording it correctly, and he does the same. Every relationship is not the easiest of things to do because you are having to adapt every day. You are having to take another person into consideration. I'm not saying you have to change for the other person, but you do have to think about them more than just thinking about yourself. And this is how we have managed to stay together for 11 years. It's because we haven't just gone ahead and done whatever we wanted to do without thinking about the other person. I don't really care what anyone says, but you cannot go into a relationship with a single mind still. You cannot go into a relationship still being as independent as you were when you were single. This is my own personal opinion. This is not anybody else's. If that's what works for you, then that's what works for you. But I think having been in a few relationships in the past, we've both been through relationships, we've both been in long-term, short-term relationships, and now being much older, we've done a lot of growing up, we're seeing things from a different perspective. It's really important to take your partner into consideration. It's really important not to live like you're still single, because this is why I sometimes feel certain relationships don't work, because you're still wanting to have your cake and you're still wanting to eat it all. This is my own personal opinion. I'm not putting my personal opinion on other people. I'm just telling you from experience what happens in our relationship and why I feel our relationship works. It's not perfect. We do argue, we do disagree, we don't see eye to eye all the time. We're both quite stubborn. My husband, sometimes I will say, is more stubborn than I am, much more hot-headed than I am, much more set in his ways than I am. But he's made a lot of changes over the years. Not because I've made him change, but because he's wanted to change to be a better person for himself. You grow. We grow. We're in our 40s now, and we've done a lot of growing up, and we're not the same people that we were when we first started dating. I love him just as much, if not more. I have so much respect for my husband, and that's a really important thing to have with your partner as well. It's that element of respect, because if you don't respect your partner, then I don't really think a relationship works. But I will never show my husband up in front of anybody else. I will wait until we get home, and I will say to him, the way you said that or the way you behaved, I don't think that was the right thing to do. He will do the same to me, and we will talk about things like that, have that conversation inside our home. I will never show my husband up. I will never disrespect my husband in front of other people. I will never mock my husband to other people. That's just not going to happen. I may have confided in friends in the past when we've had issues, minor issues, because again, we're all learning and part and parcel of life. But I've learned to be more reserved now. He is my best friend. He's the person that has my back no matter what. And I am that person that has his back no matter what. So all I am saying is, it takes a lot of patience to be in a long-term relationship, to be able to fully give yourself to someone and trust that person wholeheartedly. It's a work in progress. It takes a lot of patience, takes a lot of sacrifices, and you do have to make sacrifices in your relationship because you are no longer single, so you cannot live that single life. It takes a lot of understanding as well, because we are two different people. And we have two different backgrounds, two different cultures that we are literally have brought together. So I've got to understand things from his point of view, because he's had a more liberal background to mine. I'm South Asian, I'm Indian. I was brought up in a strictish background, and he's Puerto Rican, he's brought up in New York, he's brought up with all the freedom. He's a man, so had more freedom than I would have had as a woman. And that's just the way it was. It's not sexist, it's just the way society was. So there is a lot of understanding that goes on into a relationship. You do have to really take some time, sit back and reflect and try and understand it from the other person's point of view. Our relationship is not perfect, but every day we work hard to make it work. Every day we make a point that even if we do argue, we sit down and talk about it. And I could be really annoyed with him, I could be really upset with him, and vice versa. But by the end of the night, I will never go to bed without telling him I love him. He will never leave the house without telling me he loves me. Having a partner who you can trust, go home and talk to. I now understand how my mum felt when my dad was around. They were married nearly 50 years. And when he passed away, the first thing she said to me is, it's all right to have your kids here to talk to, but having your dad to talk to was different. I could talk to him about kids, about everything. I can't talk to you kids about the same sort of things I spoke to your dad. And it's true. My husband is my best friend. I do everything with my husband. You would see from my socials, I do everything with my husband. And I will continue to do everything for my husband. And honestly, I will drop people for my husband if that was the case. If anybody was disrespectful to him, if anybody was rude to him, they mean nothing to me, because I know how much he prioritizes me over everybody else. So I will always do the same for him. We have to work together to make that work. We have to do whatever it takes to make our relationship work. So that's just my outtake on life.